All right, guys. So today I'm going to make the definitive Cosmere book ranking. Now, everything I'm about to say is just 100% fact. If you disagree with me, you're wrong. I'm right. You're wrong. No arguments, no nonsense. You can come at me in the comments, but this is where it's at. Now, let's kick it off with the book in 28th place. Now, this is actually not a book, it's a comic book series. I didn't split them up into the different parts because it doesn't matter. This is the only piece of Cosmere media I have not finished. It is that terrible. And it's White Sand. And I hate that I haven't finished it. I tried really, really hard to read those comic books, and I gotta say that the people that took his story and turned it into comic book form did a terrible job. I have the omnibus. I know I need to give it a second shot. Someday I will. I'm really just really waiting on the full release of the book because I know it's going to be fantastic. That teaser chapter that we got was really really good, and I really enjoyed that. But the comic books are just I can't like they're bad, really really bad. All right, and so that one just has to go down at the bottom. Sorry, that's just the way it is. Now, next on the list is in 27th place is The Hope of Elantris, the short story. Um, it was fine. I didn't need that extra bit of information of what happened at the end of Elantris. It wasn't that interesting. Like, it's a little bit world building, so I'm all for it. But it's not something I really jump to reread here and there. Like, even in my rereads of the entire Cosmere, it's one of the ones I might skip. But for the most part, it's that's just why it's at the bottom, right above White Sand. I mean, this is not bad, like the comic books of White Sand. Next is the 11th Metal. It's a nice little story, written for a board game. Once again, I didn't really need it, but I'm glad it's there. Playing the board game, it was really cool to see it in there. Even though that's not where I originally saw it, I originally read it in Arcanum Unbound. But at the end of the day, it's just a fun little thing, but it's not that cool. Like it doesn't really paint Kelsier any better than he already is. Like it doesn't really do much. This one is better. The next one, 26th place. I'm sorry, 25th place. Is actually a much better story. It's a lot of fun, and that is the Alamancер Jack story. Um, I like this one a lot, actually. The reason why it's on the bottom, like near the bottom of the list, isn't because I dislike it or I think that it's subpar. In fact, none of the books from here on up are things that I like. Would well, none of them I would say I dislike except for White Sand. But the reason why this is so low is because I just forget it exists. You get the little tidbits in the Mistborn Era 2 books, and a lot of the time, like that's enough, and I just completely forget that this one exists until I'm reminded that we got this cool little story, which is fun, a lot of fun. But if I can't remember you, then I can't place you higher on the list. In 24th place is Isles of the Emberdark. Now, I really wanted to love this book. In fact, I separated Six of the Dust, which will be higher up on this list, from this book because I love Six of the Dust so much. And it does a great job. In fact, that whole part of this book is some of the best part of this book. That's not to say that I don't like what happens with Starling and what happens with Six after he goes into the whatever realm. I do, but it's just not that good. And frankly, it drops the ball at the end of this book is just a little anticlimactic, and I feel like there was no Sanderlanche. Like there like everybody reads Sando for the Sanderlanche, and there was no Sanderlanche in this book. It just happened so quick, and it's over, and things are just resolved. I'm not going to get too much into spoilers there, but the book ends and they have a resolution, and I don't feel satisfied with the resolution at the end of the book. And the fact that like Brandon decided to stomp on people that like to ship characters feelings and just make he had to insist on making the relationship in this book platonic. I'm like that wasn't necessary. I mean, just don't have it come. No one thinks that way. That's not like how people think, and you don't need to like point out that it's platonic relationship. You can just have them have a relationship, and then everybody else just speculate about it. It's a lot more fun that way. It gives us something to do, and that's another reason why I'm just like Why are you like you don't give in to the haters that say you don't write good romance, all right? You make great romance and you just stomped on all of our feelings and like and just you just had to shut it down and don't shut it down. Just let us speculate. Let us have our fan theories. Let us ship the people that we want to ship without you shoving it in our face that it's just wrong. Right? Like we don't need that. So it's lower on the list because of the ending. I don't know if my feelings towards the ship really affects where it is on the rating, but maybe it does. Maybe I do hold a grudge against that. I don't know. It doesn't matter. At 23rd place, we got Dawn Shard. Dawn Shard's really fun, actually. I love getting an expanded Risen story. I love having the Lopin's cousin and the Lopin there. I mean, I think one of my favorite parts to happen in the Cosmere happens between Lopin and his cousin. I won't spoil it for you guys, but it's really funny when Lopin's cousin gets his next ideal. It's a great scene. It's very fantastic. I hope that wasn't too spoilery, but I feel like that's not really explaining what happens or anything about it, so I'm just gonna leave it there. But Dawn Shard's great. It's a nice little thing, but it's just when compared to everything else, you know, at this point on the list, like everything else, like the caliber is really high. And that leads me to the next one. So in 22nd place, we have Edge Dancer. And once again, it's a lot of fun. And I like Lift more than I like Risen, which is probably why this is higher. I like one half of this a lot more than the other half of it. I think because I think it's split into two halves. I think you get like what was in the Arcanum Unbound plus more in this one. I can't remember if that's the case or if it's just two separate stories. Either way, I now have them as one. Edge Dancer, fantastic, nice little like vignette into Lift's personality. A lot of fun, but I have to put it a little bit lower because where it goes and moves the Cosmere forward, it doesn't do as much. A lot of fun, good, but just not as necessary. And I love these. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm glad he does these for his Kickstarters, and I want more of them. And it's just fantastic. But it's just not. It doesn't jive with me as much as a lot of the other things on this list. 21st spot, and it's the Sunlit Man. And I gotta say, one of the things that knocks the Sunlit Man down for me is the fact that it's so much like the Frugal Wizard. And it's a much better book than the Frugal Wizard. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to get into the Frugal Wizard in this ranking because it's not Cosmere. So, but it's this coming out shortly after that because their stories are so similar. It took away from it, like getting the same story within months of each other, and it's not the same story. Yes, I get it, but it's a very similar story. And I didn't even realize that that was something that like got to me until my brother-in-law actually is the one that pointed that out that they're so similar. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, maybe that's why this one didn't like give me the feels. I will say this one is a fantastic reread after Wind and Truth. I actually think it's a mistake that this book came out before Wind and Truth. Because knowing the background between Sigil and his Spren makes it much more sad and dramatic and fulfilling. You get an extra level since you know the Spren at that point, and you know more of him. And I won't spoil anything past that. I mean, you know he has a Spren in the Sunlit Man. It's good, really good, but once again, a common thread. It's just not as good as the stuff to come. And then the one right above this is Elantris. Now, I I love Elantris. I think Elantris gets a lot of slack. I think it's a very underrated book. I mean, I think it has one of the best romances in books. It has one of the most like it's not the relationship that comes of the story, but seeing a man fall in love with somebody based off of their intelligence. Actually, well, both men fall in love with the same person based off their intelligence, but it's different because we see one of them happening. And even though they don't get together and they're not a relationship, it's still fun to see them pit themselves against each other, and I that's a lot of fun. But this is early Brandon, and he hadn't gotten into his stride yet. I think if Brandon wrote Elantris now, he would be able to really. I think it would be a lot better. He's learned a lot. He's such a better writer now, and so Elantris just it's justifiably one of his weaker stories, especially of the main ones, but it's also just a lot of fun and it is good and it does add a lot of lore to the Cosmere as a whole. But I do know many people don't like it as much as I do. Moving on to 19th place. Now, this is where people are going to get mad at me. 19th place is Rhythm of War. It's the worst Stormlight Archive book. And it's not even close. Well, I shouldn't say that. Actually, the next book on this list it is close between these two, but it is. And you know what the saddest part is the fact that it has the best moment in all of Stormlight. But either way, it has the greatest moment in Stormlight history, hands down. The Sanderlanche in this one is probably one of the best Sanderlanches ever written. There is a dip in it because of one certain character that I'm sure many people don't like, just like I do. In fact, I know many people don't like her, but I won't get into that. This is just a weak one. Uh, there's certain key parts of it that are just so amazing, but this gets into the whole fact that all the Stormlight books are too long. They're too long. This could have been two books. We could have had a great little dynamic between Navani and Raboniel in a tower that could have been like a full complete story with like Kaladin in them, and we could have had it split off with what happened with the other characters. I don't know. It just this book is just a slog through 90% of it, and then it has like 2% of the best writing ever, and then like 8% of decent writing, and it's unfortunate, but I mean it's a great book. They're all great books, but it just falls so flat. It's sad how flat this book fell. Especially coming off of Oathbringer and Words of Radiance. But going on to the next one, we got 18th place is The Way of Kings. Now, when after I'd finished Way of Kings, my wife was reading it, and I think we were both reading it at the same time. This was before we were married, and we were both like, "Oh my god, we loved Mistborn so much. Are we not gonna get super into Brandon though? Is he not that good of a writer?" Because like the first 19 hours of this book, you're just like, dude, what is what? Just do something. Like it's boring. And it's a slog. But once you get past that 19 hours, because it's a 30, 40 hour book, once it's too long, it's fantastic. It's amazing. It gets so good and it kicks off this entire like book series. But we didn't back the first Way of Kings Kickstarter because we that was when we were reading this book, and we were like, why would we back this? I don't even know if we're gonna get into this. Obviously, shortly after the Kickstarter ended and we finished the book, we are like, oh man, I hate myself for not backing it, and so that's why this one falls down lower on the thing on the score. Now, 17 is Sixth of the Dusk. It's such a good, tight, fitting story. Like beginning to end, you are in it. It's quick. There's no nonsense. Like you get what's going on, and it's almost like a Sanderlanche in a story. There's another one in this list that is also a Sanderlanche in a short story. Like the whole thing is kind of a Sanderlanche. Like you're just them rushing to the other side of the island. It's so good, and so I had to split this off from Isles of the Emberdark because Isles of the Emberdark takes that good nugget and then just peters out, which was really unfortunate because maybe it's because it was so many years waiting. But I'm not going to go back to Isles of the Emberdark. Sixth of the Dust, 17th place. That's where it goes. Now in 16th place, Oathbringer. Now Oathbringer is amazing when you think about it. Like there's so many highs to it, but once again, these books are too long, and it's kind of a slog during a good portion of it. And I want to love the Stormlight books more. I mean, I do love them. I've reread all of them multiple times. On Winter Truth, only twice. I mean, I've read the whole Cosmere at least like 5, 6 times at this point. I've sworn off rereading it, and these books are better on rereads. But all of the Cosmere books are better on rereads, not just the Stormlight ones. Every single one is because when you know what's happening and you know the bigger universe, it's so great and like heartwarming to see what's going on. But Oathbringer has the Dalinar is fantastic, but like there's just a part in the middle where it stagnates, and so I just have to knock it down for that. Like I 16th place. It's a good place, out of 28, 16, like almost in the middle. Now in 15th, and when I was talking about a Sanderlanche in the short story, Shadows of Silence in the Forest of Hell is a Sanderlanche in a short story. Oh my gosh, it is so tense. It is so good. And it's one of the reasons why I think Brandon makes mistakes writing too long books. He's so good at writing short stories and novellas and like as you'll see later on, like his shorter books are generally the better books. He's so much better at keeping tight, contained stories, making you fall in love with all of the characters or hating the characters. Like when he like really brings it in, and this short, sweet, great story just is a perfect encapsulation of that. It's just it's so oh I, yeah, yeah, and that's only 15th spot. Like what the heck? Now, finally, 14th, When in Truth. Um, this one actually fixes the pacing issues for the Stormlight Archives. The 10-day cycle is what actually brings this one up to being the one of the better ones, like the second best Stormlight book as far as I'm concerned. It's the pacing. It actually doesn't have many of the best parts. It has really good parts. I mean, Adolin's story, like Adolin's story. I don't think I need to say much more than that. Fantastic, but really what brings this one together is the pacing. The fact that we have each day really being like a tight, complete story helps it flow so much better than a lot of the other Stormlight books did. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but that's just the truth. It is still too long, way too long, way too long. But at least if you get the pacing right, it doesn't always feel too long. In 13th place, we got the Lost Metal. Now, this is the turning point in my list. Like, I know I said below that like every book above this is fantastic, and they are. All of these books are fantastic. Like every single one except for the White Sand comics is amazing. Like just insanely good books. I recommend them to anybody that will read them. I am obsessed. But this on my list is really where the shift happens. Now, the Lost Metal is the worst one in Mistborn Era 2. Actually, it's probably the worst Mistborn full novel. But it's still a lot of fun, and it does a great job of wrapping up the story. And it brings it all together. One of the things that I think why it falls flat is because I think it was a little too fan servicey, and that was intentional, and it was the first one where the gloves are off. It's he's learning how to bring the whole Cosmere together. But I feel like he wrapped it up in a way to try to make people happy. And that's not really a bad thing. And it was sad. I mean, obviously the ending was sad. I won't spoil what happens, but it's heartbreaking what happens. And I but at the same time, I feel like he had to kill off somebody, which I guess is a spoiler, but whatever. Maybe multiple people die. I'm not going to say. But at the end of the day, he made his decisions. I feel like he almost felt obligated because he didn't want to make it feel too fan servicey to do that. But at the same time, like he still wanted to. I mean, it is an in between story. I mean, this book series was never meant to be Mistborn Air 2. It all derived from a short story he wrote that expanded into probably his best series. And this is just it's the least tight of the bunch. A lot of fun, good stuff happens in it. Once again, recommend it, but I recommend all of them. Next on the list is Tress of the Emerald Sea. Now, my wife likes this one a lot more than me. Obviously, I mean, I think that's just something that happens. I do love this one. I mean, I love romance. You can ask my wife. We joke about it all the time. I tear up at movies. I tear up when I'm reading books a little bit too. I tear up when I read this book or any of these books. There's probably a scene or two in every one of these books that I tear up. And Tress is just it's fantastic. It's a cute love story. I love the fact that he's turning the fables on their head, and it's like Princess Diary. Is that the right? Is that the right? Is that the right? I'm just gonna say it. It's like Princess Diary. I really hope that's not the Anne Hathaway movie. Either way, it's like that. Turn on its head. Female protagonist. A lot of fun. Go save the male, the prince. The lowly window washer saving her prince. It was fantastic, and I loved every second of it. It's really good. Next is The Emperor's Soul, which another great short story, or I think this one's technically a novella. I don't know. It is in Arcanum Unbound. It is the longer of the bunch, and it's fantastic. I mean, you just fall in love having this one character in a room um, trying to beat the odds with little interaction, no nothing around her except for what she can create herself and what she can convince them to give her. And it's a nice little prison break story, and it's fantastic. I love it so much. Really does a great job of expanding the world that Elantris is in. Can't remember the name of it, but it does a great job expanding that. Really letting you understand how like segregated the different continents are. Since there's honestly there's very little information about them even knowing about the other continents. I mean, they do because they have the reference to the Fjordell, monks in the red armor. But either way, like it's funny because Fjordell is obviously conquering so much of the world, which I'm not sure the timeline of how this actually where this goes. So this could be before that, after that, who knows? But like the world's supposed to be much bigger, and the magic is so dependent on where you were born. The land you're tied to the land. It's fantastic. There's so many magic systems. We get another one expanded on in that world alone, and it's great. It's a nice little story that really gets you thinking and like really get, gets the brain going. Number 10, The Well of Ascension. I think the Will of Ascension gets ragged on a little bit. I like it a lot. I had a hard time placing this one. I had a hard time actually placing all three of Mistborn Era 1 and which order I wanted to put all of the books on. I did eventually decide on putting this one in the bottom, and I think that has to do with the fact that how strong the other two are. And this one, it does a great job connecting the two, uh, but it's just not as good at it as the other two. Number 9 is Mistborn's Secret Histories. Now, seeing the viewpoint of the Mistborn trilogy, or at least the second and third book, is an amazing twist. It's such a great reveal. It's such an amazing thing that happens. And to anybody that's missed this one, because it's in Arcanum Unbound, and a lot of people don't realize that they have to read these short stories. This is a must read. This is a mandatory read for Mistborn series for the Cosmere. Like this is one of the most pivotal writings for the entire Cosmere as a whole when it comes down to like expanding the story and really getting a background that is just fundamental to everything, and it becomes important in the Stormlight archives. It's important in the Mistborn Era 2, and it's obviously going to be important throughout the Cosmere going forward. So you have to read this one, and it's a lot of fun. Which it's just a great way of seeing the viewpoint from somebody different. That yeah, I don't want to be too spoilery. I know there's some spoilers in what I'm saying, but like, just read it, please. 8 is Mistborn: The Final Empire. Um, the I once again I went back and forth on where to put these books. Like, should this have been first on when it comes down to Mistborn Era 1? Should it have been second? Should it be third? It was hard. And at the end of the day, the reason I put this one where I did is because it's so self-contained. It's so good, and like it's one arc, it's one story, and yeah, the ending is a little over the top, as Brandon said, and I know his editors said he needed to do that, or else it would have been a little flat. And it probably would have been. I mean, yeah, but at the end of the day, it's fantastic. It's tight. You can literally read this story and not need another Mistborn story. Like it's that good. Obviously, you do need more Mistborn. I mean, you need more Cosmere no matter what. But it's succinct. It's great. It's fantastic, and it's. I mean, this is the book that I recommend people start with when it comes out in the Cosmere, and I stand by that. This is the correct choice. Anybody that says Stormlight Archives, you're gonna turn off more people than you're going to get into it. Because if somebody gets into Stormlight Archives, you were going to get into Mistborn. Like there's almost no chance that somebody would read Mistborn and not get into it, and then not go on to the Cosmere as a whole. And not everybody can read these 1,000-page, like giant novels, like and get into it. But everybody can read a normal sized novel, and then it's an entry drug, like it's a gateway. And yes, Stormlight might have worked for you. You're the exception. When I think by telling people to start there, you're gonna get people driven away because they're gonna be like, oh my god, it's so hard to read it. No, you need to start with Mistborn. Mistborn: The Final Empire is the where you go. And as you probably already guessed, the seventh on my list is The Hero of Ages. I mean, obviously, I keep saying I had such a hard time on where to place these three books, and I had to put this one at the top. I mean, the ending is magical. The whole story is fantastic. Really seeing Ellen grow is amazing. And it's seeing Ellen and Vin dance finally brings. I'm almost sobbing when that happens, and they have so much fun together. And and there's so much to it, and everything that happens with Marsh. Yeah, I ended up having to put this one at the top of the Mistborns. Well, Era one, obviously. Era two is just blows every other Cosmere book out of the water. Number six is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. I loved this book. Um, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I think the relationship between Yumi and Painter is just so cute and enduring, and like the fact that they're stuck together and like they can't get away, and so they have to build together and like bond and figure things out, and then not to mention that they're so well suited to be with each other and to work with each other, that they're on the polar opposites but in the same path. I mean, she has not necessarily the motivation, but she has the work ethic and the skill to be the best at what she does, and Painter has the skill and no work ethic. I mean, and he's just on his down on his luck, and they're both so depressed, but they're able to find each other and like find happiness and work together to solve their issues. And it's just them working together. I think this is why it's the romance that works for me. I found it so adorable. Painter is also, I mean, very relatable to any high school boy that's depressed and a little unmotivated. I mean, anybody that's been in those shoes is going to feel a little connection to Painter. It hit me, and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and so I had to put it up here. Is it like the best book of Brandon? No, but I absolutely love it, and it deserves where it is on the spot. Number five is The Alloy of Law, and this one just sets up the best Brandon Sanderson Cosmere series. Mistborn Era 2 is so good. And this goes to my point that Brandon is so much better at writing shorter stories than he is at longer ones, because these are actually shorter than Mistborn Era 1. These aren't are they're full-length novels, don't get me wrong, but they're on the shorter end. Brandon Sanderson is a character writer. It's what makes him such an amazing author, is that he brings these characters to life. He makes characters for you to love and hate. And he does such a good job. And having a tight knit cast like he does in Mistborn Era 2 with the Alloy of Law, we got Wayne, we got Wax, we got Steris, we got Marisi. We get to really experience them being together and having to bond and like grow and like work together, and they're the most fleshed out characters he has. I mean, maybe not the most fleshed out characters he has. I mean, this Stormlight Archives and Mistborn Era 1 both are really, like, all of his books are really fleshed out, but I don't think any of them have the character connection like as much as this book does. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're all just so tied together, which might be why I think Lost Metal might fall flat, is because they split up a little bit more in that one. But it's just so nice to see this amazing cast of characters, and this old western, or it's like the end of the West story, and it's fantastic. The whole series is amazing. Let's move on to the fourth in my list, Warbreaker. God, Warbreaker is good. This was almost number two on my list, but I had to move it down. And I moved it down to number four. But it's fantastic. This has one of the best setups and payoffs in Brandon Sanderson's writing. And the whole story is great. I mean, Sisebron and Vivenna are fantastic together. I hope I got the right sister with him. We got Light Song, in his helper spook. Once again, it's characters. He's so good at writing characters. All I say is when the one sister walks down those stairs and finds out, it's chills down my spine. It's when you know, and oh my gosh, and it all makes sense. Like once again, these books are great rereads. You reread this book and you see the signs of everything. It's amazing. Truly amazing. All right. Book number 3. Um yeah, Words of Radiance. Uh it's probably the only Stormlight Archive book that might not be too long. It is. I mean, it's obviously too long, but I love it. I can't find a slog in it. I, God, Honor's dead, but I'll see what I can do. Probably one of the coolest lines in any book series, and just this book is tight for how long it is. This is the one that really flies in my face of like, oh, maybe he can write long books. Yeah, maybe he could, but they're not all Words of Radiance now, are they? No. I mean, we have to deal with Way of Kings and Rhythm of War to get to this one. Oathbringer obviously is closer to this, but it's just not the same. Wind and Truth is way too long, but at least it has good pacing. But this one, I think it has good pacing and fantastic story, and I just absolutely love every second of it. I am super sad that certain people don't get together, but then I'm also really happy because I think the matches that do end up are the better choices. I do think it works out. I do think the friendships too that bloom through that is probably the best part of the Stormlight Archives. I mean, Adolin is best boy. I love that boy. I love him so much, and I think this is where you really get to like know that Adolin's best boy. You don't see it so much in the first book in the Way of Kings, but in Words of Radiance, it's where you get the first glimmers of how amazing of a person Adolin is, and I love it. I love every second of it. So let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is Shadows of Self. Oh my God, the what Wax has to go through in this book is messed up. I mean, terrible. I'd put this on par with some of the stuff Kaladin had to go through. In fact, it's probably worse than what Kaladin had to go through. I mean, it's a rough one. I will say though, I've never been so surprised by a switch in the character love story as I was in this one. Um, I was all in on Marasi and Wax after the Alloy of Law. I was 100% in on Marasi and Wax. I was like, I'm so looking forward to getting this love triangle. Since we already saw that Steris was falling for Wax in the first book, when he saves her, he obviously, sparked a little bit something in her when he flew her up and pushed her out over the into the water. And so we do see that she is falling for him in the first book, but I was ready for Marasi to swoop in and be the right choice, and I was so wrong. The way Steris handles the end of this book is one of the most heartwarming things I've ever seen in a book. Like, in the face of such turmoil, and seeing somebody you care about suffer so much and not inserting yourself into it, but just being there for them is amazing. And that's why that's my number 2 book. And number 1, the best book in all of the Cosmere. This is not up for argument. This is the correct choice. It's the Bands of Mourning. The Bands of Mourning is the best book. It's the complete package. It is amazing from start to end. You get Steris becoming Steris. You get Wax and Steris's love truly blossoming. I'm I mean, when he goes up in the air and holding her up there and her gripping on tight and not being afraid, but being thrilled, and then he kisses her is amazing. We get Wayne and Milan, which is a fantastic relationship. I love it. I mean, it's so much fun. They're so energetic, and like he's just making up for lost time. After having being a creeper. Let's be honest. Right? Wayne was being a creeper. Inappropriate, but you know what? He still found love, and it wasn't inappropriate. It was fantastic. Getting Marasi seeing, having a little bit of a bond with the Malwish guy. I thought that was kind of cute. How he just instantly kind of fell for her. And it really sets so many things up and just gives it. But it's yeah, it's so good. I mean, the it has some of the best action scenes. They're just so playful and they're so fun, and it's just the greatest thing. Now, once again, this is the definitive ranking of all of the Cosmere books out to date. The only person allowed to change this list is me, and if any of you disagree with me, oh well, you're allowed to be wrong.